Microplastics. Right now, somewhere in the folds of your brain, there's about a spoon's worth of plastic. Not a spoonful, the weight of an actual plastic spoon, broken into pieces too small to ever see. We know that because in 2024, researchers took apart brain tissue from people who had died and measured what was inside. The average came back at almost 0.5% plastic by weight. They checked the livers and kidneys from the same bodies too, and the brain held up to 30 times more than either one. Microplastics are exactly what they sound like. Tiny shards that flake off the plastic that everything comes wrapped in, small enough to ride along in your bloodstream and slip past barriers that are supposed to keep junk out. And the amount is rising fast. Brains from 2024 carried about 50% more plastic than brains from just 8 years before. In under a decade, the load went up by half. So how worried should you be? Honestly, less than that opening made you feel. Finding plastic in there isn't the same as proving it does damage, and so far, that proof isn't in. The one unsettling clue is that the brains with the most plastic tended to belong to people who died with dementia. But that's only a correlation, and it can easily run the other way. A brain already breaking down may simply let more plastic slip in, rather than the plastic causing the harm. Nobody's untangled that yet. What you've got is a real exposure that's rising every year, with a question mark where the danger should be. That's worth watching, not panicking over, and the rest of this list has plenty you can be more certain about. Microwaves. For something people have been side-eyeing for 50 years, the microwave is one of the safest things in your kitchen. The radiation fear is almost pure myth, and the reason comes down to one word. That word is non-ionizing. Radiation comes in two flavors. The dangerous kind, like X-rays, carries enough energy to knock your molecules apart and damage DNA. The kind a microwave uses doesn't come close. It just makes water molecules jiggle, and that jiggling is the heat. It doesn't alter your cells, it doesn't make your food radioactive, and it doesn't give you cancer. The World Health Organization, the National Cancer Institute, and the American Cancer Society all say the same thing. The door isn't just a window either. It's built with a metal mesh that traps the waves inside, and the FDA caps any leakage far below a level that could touch you. The second it switches off, there's nothing left bouncing around. There's even a myth in the other direction, that microwaving murders the nutrients in your food. It's backwards. Boiling drags vitamins out into the water you dump down the sink. The microwave uses barely any water and barely any time, so it often keeps more of the good stuff than the stove does. The one real catch isn't the microwave at all, it's the container. Heating food in plastic can leach chemicals into your meal, but that's the plastic's fault, and we'll get to plastic later. Use glass or ceramic, and there's nothing here to fear. Non-stick pans. The pan you scrambled your eggs in this morning might just be coated in a chemical that's now in the blood of almost every person on Earth, yours included, and it's linked to cancer. That coating is part of a family called PFAs, or polyfluoroalkyl substances. They're nicknamed forever chemicals because they essentially never break down. Not in the pan, not in the soil, not in you. One of them, PFOA, has turned up in the blood of 99.7% of Americans tested. In human studies, PFA exposure tracks with kidney and testicular cancer, thyroid disease, high cholesterol, and a weaker immune system. This is not the soft, maybe someday kind of worry. It's one of the better documented ones on this whole list. You may be wondering how it gets from the pan into you. Two ways. Scratch the surface with a metal fork and it sheds tiny particles into your food. Or crank the heat, past about 500 degrees, and that coating starts to break down and release fumes. Those fumes are strong enough to kill a pet bird in the same room, and they give humans something doctors call Teflon flu. An intact pan, kept off high heat, is considered lower risk. The catch is that intact doesn't last, because non-stick scratches if you so much as look at it wrong. If the coating is flaking or heavily degraded, toss it. Better yet, use stainless steel or cast iron instead. One more thing. Don't fall for the marketing ploy of a label that says Teflon free. Half the time, they've only dropped the brand name. The coating underneath is exactly the same. Sunscreen. The stuff you rub on your kids at the beach gets absorbed straight through their skin and into their blood. That's not a scare tactic. It's an FDA finding. In 2019, the FDA tested the common chemical filters in sunscreen and found that after a single day of use, 6 of them showed up in people's bloodstreams at levels high enough to trigger the agency's safety review. One application, straight through the skin. It gets worse before it gets better. Some sunscreen sprays have been pulled off shelves after testing found benzene inside them. a chemical that's a known cause of blood cancers like leukemia. It isn't an ingredient. It sneaks in as a contamination during manufacturing, and it's exactly the kind of thing worth being angry about. Here's where the panic falls apart, though. Benzene is a contamination problem in a handful of products, not something built into sunscreen itself, and the recalls exist because the companies got caught. As for the chemicals that soak into your blood, the FDA was clear about one thing. Showing up in your blood is not the same as doing harm. After decades of people slathering it on, there's no convincing human evidence that sunscreen ingredients cause cancer at normal use levels. The thing the fearmongers leave out is what happens when you skip it. Skin cancer is the most common cancer there is, and the sun causes the overwhelming majority of it. More than 99,000 new melanoma cases a year in the US alone. Going without sunscreen isn't the safe, natural choice, it's the dangerous one. If the absorbing chemicals still bug you, there's an easy answer. Mineral sunscreens, the ones with zinc oxide or titanium dioxide, sit on top of your skin instead of soaking in, and the FDA already considers them safe. Skip the sprays, use a mineral lotion, and you've dodged every real concern while still covering the one that actually matters. Food dyes. The bright red in your kids' candy started out in a barrel of petroleum. So did the blue, the yellow, and the green. Whether that's a scandal or a nothing burger depends entirely on which study you read. There are really two separate worries here, and they don't carry equal weight. The first is about behavior. When researchers take a group of kids, put them on a diet with zero artificial dye, then quietly slip it back in, some of those kids get visibly more hyperactive and lose focus. The effect is strongest in children who already struggle with attentional problems. This was tested in real kids, not a petri dish, and a 2-year review by California's health agency reached the same conclusion. If you've ever watched a child go feral after red punch at a birthday party, you weren't imagining it. Europe took that seriously enough to stamp a warning label on dyed food. The US looked at the same evidence and waved it through, though that's finally changing, with a national phase-out of synthetic dyes set for the end of 2027. Now the part that gets blown out of proportion. You may have heard these dyes cause cancer. That fear comes almost entirely from rats, fed amounts of dye no human could ever eat every day for a lifetime. Red 3 did trigger thyroid tumors in rats that way, which is why it got pulled. But for Red 40, the one in nearly everything on the shelf, there's no convincing human cancer link at the doses people actually consume. That leaves you with two very different stories. The hyperactivity in sensitive kids is real and tested in humans. The cancer scare is a lab rat eating its own body weight in food coloring. They're just not the same. Screens. You've been told screens are quietly destroying your eyes, and that a special pair of glasses can rescue them. One of those claims is partly true. The other one emptied your wallet for nothing. The partly true one is about your eyes. There's no good evidence that screens cause any permanent damage in an adult. What they cause is eye strain, dryness, fatigue, that gritty blur after a long day. It's real, it's irritating, and it vanishes the moment you look away for a while. The fix costs nothing. Every 20 minutes, stare at something far across the room for 20 seconds. Now about the glasses. In 2023, the most rigorous review in the field pooled 17 separate trials on blue light blocking glasses and found they do essentially nothing. Not for eye strain, not for sleep, not for the health of your eyes. People have been buying them since the early 2000s to solve a problem the glasses never solved. There's one genuine piece buried in here. Bright blue light late at night can throw your body clock out of rhythm and delay your sleep. But that's about timing, not damage, and the glasses don't fix it anyway. Dimming the screen or setting it down entirely does far more. The one group that should truly pay attention is kids, whose eyes are still growing and drifting toward nearsightedness in record numbers. Even then, it's less about the screen itself than what it's keeping them from. Time outside in actual daylight, which is what their growing eyes really need. Deodorant. The stick of deodorant under your arm has been blamed for breast cancer and Alzheimer's for decades. You can quit holding your breath every morning because neither charge survives a closer look. Take the breast cancer claim first. A 2024 review pooled 7 separate studies and found no link whatsoever between antiperspirant use and breast cancer. The National Cancer Institute and the American Cancer Society both say the same. The fear behind it's strange, and it's flimsy. It traces back to a 1990s chain email, the kind your aunt forwarded with 12 exclamation points. It picked up steam because a lot of breast tumors form in the upper outer slice of the breast, near the armpit. But that's simply where most breast tissue sits. It has nothing to do with what you rub there after your shower. The Alzheimer's scare started in the 1960s, when aluminum showed up in the brains of patients, alongside dialysis patients who had massive doses of aluminum pumped straight into their blood because their kidneys had quit. That bears no resemblance to a swipe of deodorant absorbed through healthy skin, with working kidneys clearing it out. To date, there's no solid evidence that normal deodorant use causes Alzheimer's or any type of dementia. The aluminum everyone's ditching is the one part that actually works. The natural stuff filling the aisles might give you peace of mind, but it'll still leave you with sweat stains. Artificial sweeteners. Diet soda was sold as the ultimate cheat. All the sweetness, none of the calories. Then in 2023, the World Health Organization tagged one of its main sweeteners as a possible carcinogen, and the internet exploded. The real story is far less dramatic than the headline that scared you. That sweetener was aspartame, and possible carcinogen sounds like a death sentence until you learn it's the WHO's least serious level, in the same category as aloe vera and pickled vegetables. That label came from one branch of the WHO, while a different branch of the same organization looked at the identical evidence and said the safe daily limit didn't need to be lowered at all. The cancer evidence just wasn't convincing. Just like with red dye, the studies behind the scare were mostly rats packed with enormous doses. Sucralose, the yellow packet one, has no solid human cancer link either, though newer research hints it may mess with your gut bacteria. Acesulfame potassium, a third sweetener hiding in a huge share of sugar-free products, has barely been studied at all. The real problem with these sweeteners has nothing to do with cancer. The WHO now flat-out recommends against using these sweeteners to lose weight, not because they're toxic, but because the evidence says they don't even work for that. People who lean on them don't end up thinner, and long-term tracking suggests they may end up with more problems related to diabetes and heart trouble, not less. So much for the healthy choice. There's a second part to this coming out soon, and that's where the real fights are. The stuff people scream about in the comment section. Seed oils, scented candles, the fluoride in your tap water. Some of it's fear-mongering, some of it isn't. Subscribe to discover which is which.